Okay, wow, so my previous video on the Spooky Month series got a lot of traction, and that video was only a deep dive into the first 3 Spooky Month episodes. Firstly, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to anyone who supported my videos. Secondly, I pronounced the creator's name incorrectly, which is actually pronounced Senor Pello, who I will be addressing as Pello for the rest of the video. Now, feel free to watch the previous video for better context, or support me on Patreon for early access content on some of my newer videos. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Spooky Month 4 Deadly Smiles is a major accomplishment in Pello's channel. If I didn't know any better, I would think this is an actual television show on a program like Adult Swim. It's significantly longer and has a good story with lots of effort put into it. It starts off with Skid sitting on the couch with his Happy Fella doll watching a television show. The advertisement begins with a mildly depressed man talking about how miserable he is before a life-size version of the Happy Fella's doll barges in. The Happy Fella doll engages in conversation in an attempt to cheer the man up. After this fails, he invites him to go on an adventure in order to find happiness. Leela, who we now know works at an architecture firm, complains to her friend June that Skid has done nothing but play with the doll, much to her disapproval. Leela then asks if Skid would like to visit Pump, and the scene ends with a slow zoom on the Happy Fella's doll. Leela enters with Skid, and Mr. Wonder, Pump's grandpa, invites them in. We know it's around the Christmas season because of the soundtrack that plays when they do the Spooky Month dance.
Oh, thank you so much.
After Leela leaves, Mr. Wonder tells them not to cause any trouble before they decide to do some drawings. They ask Susie for colors before she tells them no. We also see the Happy Fella's shadow sneaking behind Skid and Pump and grabbing a knife from the kitchen counter. While Susie is live streaming her art, the two sneak into her room before she kicks them out, although they somehow manage to steal her colors. The doll attempts to murder Mr. Wonder but is stopped by Skid, who wants to play with it. They're showing off their artworks before the doll attempts to trick them into killing them by telling them about a knife game that involves them closing their eyes. Right before he's about to kill the two of them, Susie walks in and scolds them before taking the knife away from the doll. They then go to the movie theater to watch a scary movie. After getting tickets from Rick, they then sneak off before Rick quits his job. As they're watching the movie, the Happy Fella's doll says he has to pee right before leaving. As he is attempting to escape, he's caught by Frank, who, thinking the doll is actually a child, wants to kidnap the doll for ransom money. The doll then walks past 2 drunk people before attempting to kill them, only to be kidnapped by Frank at the last minute. The doll then gets angry at Frank before Frank freaks out, punches the shit out of him, and then throws him into the open window of a cop car. Jack and John return, find the doll, and decide to leave it at the candy store in case someone wants to collect it. Skid and Pump are watching the movie, only to realize that dolls can't actually pee, and proceed to search for him. They then go past 2 homeless people who tell them that the doll was kidnapped, and so they then decide to ask Kevin to speak to the police in order to get back the doll. We cut back to the homeless people, and it's revealed that they're actually drinking each other's pee, and they then proceed to make out. John and Jack are at the station filing a report for the missing doll before John sneezes on it due to a sickness, most likely a cold. The doll gets angry, grabs some keys and a knife, and disappears from the frame. Thin Thief and Fat Thief are talking to each other in their cells when the Happy Fella's doll attempts to murder them. They're then stopped by Officer Jack, who confiscates the doll and knife and scolds the prisoner. They leave for the candy store before the scene shows one of the cult members following them. Kevin then finishes giving 3 of the bullies some candy before he sees Roy trying to steal some. In an attempt to hit him, he hits another customer instead and follows them out in order to apologize before he sees officers Jack and John. They tell him to give the doll to anyone who might have lost it before walking away. Right then, the doll disappears and the power goes out. The doll then stabs Kevin and the two engage in a fight scene, with the fight scene ending in Kevin blinding the doll with chewed gum and kicking him out. Skid and Pump come in and try to help him. They then ask if he's seen the doll, much to Kevin's anger, who tells them the doll is in the back of the store. The bullies then show up before taking the doll. When Skid and Pump come to take the doll back, Roy tells them if they want the doll back, they will need to give him their jackets. They then go back to Pump's house, where Susie gives them hot chocolate, and then Leela comes to pick the both of them up for a play date. Skid goes to look for the doll, where we see a QR code broken up into 4 pieces. Leela brings the both of them home before leaving. The doll, tired of Skid and Pump, tries to escape before running into a corner. He yells at the boys for not letting him him fulfill his needs before Leela walks in. The Happy Fellas doll scolds Leela and attempts to attack the boys with a knife. Leela notices this, picks the boys up, and attempts to run away from the doll by going into the attic. Whilst they're hiding, Skid and Pump mock the doll before he notices them, and right before attempting the attack, the mannequin falls on top of his head, foiling his plans and allowing the trio to escape. They then go into the kitchen before Leela stabs the doll. This doesn't actually do anything, but Skid and Pump push the doll into the oven before Leela turns on the heat to the highest setting, disintegrating the doll. June then comes to the house with another Happy Fellas doll as a present so that Skid and Pump can each have their own doll. The doll attempts to break free in anger before Leela panics and asks June to burn it in the oven. A tired Leela then offers June if she wants to drink spoiled milk before the kids join her. But right before the episode ends, we see a new segment about a serial killer named Bob Velsib who has escaped prison, thus setting up the plot for the next episode. The episode ends with the advertisement for the Happy Fellas doll finishing and Ooga Booga jump scare. Now, before I continue, it's pretty obvious that the Happy Fellas doll is actually Dexter. 1, because of the eyes. 2, it literally says that Dexter is a Happy Fellas doll in the credits. And 3, they share the same sentences and voice.
With this, I will satisfy my needs.
Been trying to fulfill my needs, and you always stop me!
I just needed to point that out as it will make the whole analysis more easier to go through. In Pump's house, we can see several photos of him and his family together. Most of the time they seem pretty happy, although what's interesting is that in one of the frames, both Susie and Pump seem a bit unhappy, except for Mr. Wonder, the grandpa of the family. We know from Susie's dialogue interaction with Pump that his parents usually never answer their calls, implying that their parents are probably more focused on their career lives than their own kids.
I will tell Mom and Dad.
Call them, they never answer.
There's an Easter egg on Susie's livestream where someone references Skid and Pump as being the kids from Monday Noon Moving, a clear reference to Friday Night Funkin'. We also see devil emotes, which given the context of the 5th episode, makes it certainly interesting. Something weird I realize is that in Pump's and Susie's room, we see a photo frame that reads, "We love you so much," which is a bit odd when you think about it, because why would your own parents put a photo of themselves in your room to remind you of how much they love you? Perhaps they may not be entirely neglectful, as they want their kids to understand they are still loved, even though both parents are quite busy. I also noticed that the home is pretty spacious, with Pump's room being entirely pumpkin themed. In the scene when Skid and Pump are getting tickets, we see that the floor pattern is the exact same from the movie The Shining. During the police station scene, we see profiles of the 2 thieves, Frank, a cult member, and for whatever reason, Dexter. Another weird message that I couldn't dissect was when Fat Thief says this.
It's weird, right? You move the X to the other side and you have the answer! What?
I'm not too sure what it means, but we might find out in a future episode. We also see that in the candy store, a nativity scene is shown by the window, giving us further evidence that the episode takes place around Christmas. Another subtle detail we see is Kevin taking more enthusiasm in his job, as well as providing much better customer service skills than in the first few episodes. We also see more positive behavior from all the bullies except for Roy, which kind of makes sense when you consider that all these characters have probably have time to develop and grow as people. We also see Kevin has a slightly more friendly approach towards the kids. Even after he comes to the realization that the doll is involved with them, he just ends up apathetic and defeated rather than angry. Another weird thing I noticed is a huge abundance of wanted posters scattered around the town. There's also hardly anyone outside during the Christmas season, which may suggest that people are hearing about the kidnappings going on and are choosing to stay at home. We also see that the bullies are becoming a bit more nicer towards them. Another subtle detail we see is that Susie has a good understanding on how to take care of Skid and Pump, offering them hot chocolate and warning them about going outside without asking. She also communicates with Leela about organizing a play date, implying that in a lot of cases she may actually act as a parent, since her parents are not usually around and Mr. Wonder is usually asleep. Now for the QR code. Alright, I'm going to need you to sit down for this part if you're not already doing so. As we can see, there are pieces of a QR code inside of the chest that the Happy Fellas doll is in. If we organize the pieces of the QR code and scan it, we are taken to this image, which reveals a ton in terms of Dex's tragic backstory. Now, I'm going to try and organize the notes into chronological order to the best of my ability. After the events of Spooky Month 3 where he was killed by Moloch, his body somehow got trapped inside of a Happy Fellas doll. Dexter then blames Leela, writing on a note, "Where is my backpack and body? She did this to me." He possibly blames her since he might have believed that Leela got him killed by Moloch on purpose. Another note reads, "Day 1. I am inside a damn doll. The last thing I remember is that monster." The Day 9 note is concerning as he talks about being inside a fat kid's chest and how he needs to kill something. He also comments on Pump's ability to see supernatural phenomena when the note reads, "The fat kid looks at me weird. He knows I'm not a doll. His eyes change," which pretty much confirms our theory that Pump has the ability to recognize anything supernatural with his eyes. The Day 11 note has Dexter going slightly insane as he talks about needing to desperately kill something but being unable to. Day 12 is when he completely loses it, when he gets angry at Leela for not buying a cat and he writes how he needs it.
And you! You should have bought the damn cat when your son told you to!
A visually obscured note reads, "I don't know. I need to make something bleed." The second last note is Dexter arguing with himself as the note reads, "I can't kill them. They are kids," over and over again. And this is what I believe is the final note. I need to kill them. This explains a lot. Dexter was trapped inside of a doll with the only way of escaping was through a ritual by performing the sacrifice of either a person or animal. Unfortunately for him, he was not able to kill anything and couldn't bring himself to kill Skid and Pump since they were just kids, at least in the beginning. He finally snapped after Leela wasn't able to provide a cat and decided to kill the kids after fighting with himself and wondering whether or not this would be a good decision. That also explains why throughout the entire episode, Dexter is willing to kill anything and anyone given the opportunity. It's not necessarily the kids he's after, it's the freedom granted after making a sacrifice that he's after. As to why he talks about satisfying his needs in another episode, that part is a bit vague. Perhaps he had other rituals that he could perform, implying that he may also be a part of the cult, but there's so much more to uncover. Now, I'm not going to go into exact details, but a user on the Spooky Month subreddit provided detailed information on how the code was solved. Basically, there's an unsolved link where the only way of finding the answers is by adjusting the hue to purple and then looking at all the hidden dots placed on the paper and then transferring them to a video link. Doing this, we are taken to this image. We get a closer look of Leela, her husband, and Skid with the father's face crossed out and X's placed on both Leela's and Skid's necks. Although the user who organized how the code was broken managed to use Morse code to find another link. This then leads to a book. Now, translating this would have been time consuming and difficult were it not for one YouTube channel called Pretty Cool Banana who managed to translate the entire text. Shout out to them. The text reads as follows. When the moon appears in the hour without light, the newly weak souls can show the new world to God, which was nothing, and now is everything. He saw the flue from all the necessities of life and the wine of the living, for the custom returns to darkness before eternity. This maple skin with the soul-filled eyes can see in us a vessel, and when we perish to shine into the sky without light, we were incarnated the way to, but everything in this kingdom called earth. In the beginning, it was in the ugly tissue, for my body holds the vacuous essence. Over time, the text became aware. He was almost succumbing to his merciless lies. His greed can be seen in his cheek. One silent night when the town was covered with darkness, I could talk about something that is more than everything. But soon it is near. All will become nothing and all will be nobody. I didn't believe it. I thought it was another lie. But then he showed me. I saw everything we had lived, and then I saw the evil that awaited me. Then I will return. My body became paralyzed, my mind weakened, and my life short, for I saw an eternal nightmare. This is the pain of the creature. I was making a deal. Do for me forever, for me I will be forbidden, everything as all from you. He was accepting. Now it's going to be very difficult to try and interpret this text, especially when you consider translation issues involved with Google Translate. From what I gather, the opening starts with the moon appearing between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m., the hour without light, thus allowing the cult to emerge out of hiding, hence the sentence, the newly weak souls can show the new world to God which was nothing and now is everything, similar to the saying in which they want to acquire everything. I sort of imagine the next part of the text involves the eyes of the universe or some other entity waking up after the ritual is performed, and seeing in each of his followers a vessel that has the potential to make him more powerful. In turn, he will grant his followers everything they desire. It seems so that the eyes of the universe has become greedy with power, which is one of his shortcomings. One night, whilst everything is dark, the eyes of the universe decides to tell the author about the end of the universe, to which the author did not believe his statement, only for the eyes of the universe to show him a vision of the end, much to the author's horror. I think the last statement is coming from the eyes of the universe, who states as long as people continue to worship him, they will be protected. As to the image itself, I have multiple interpretations. It could either be an eye from the eyes of the universe, or could be an abstract depiction of a forest where the ritual took place, since the small veins that are part of the eyes slightly resemble a tree. Someone on a community post that I put up talked about how there are 6 main children within the Spooky Month series, and how each child may represent a branch needed to complete the ritual. Now, this isn't even the most fascinating part of the puzzle, because we can use all the text highlighted in red, which leads to a video link. It doesn't make much sense, but someone managed to convert the video title into HTML coding, which translates to the words "my light." Using a spectrogram and converting the audio, we then also get a translation of the following words: "Gaze upon my light, and gone beyond my night." Now for the rest of the video. The mannequin in the attic stops the Happy Fella doll from trying to kill anyone, possibly because it's actually Leela's husband. And the ending where Dexter shouts "not again" implies that his soul will continue to possess a different doll so long as his ritual is not completed, which is actually a horrible fate when you think about it. And although I can't justify him trying to kill a living person, I do understand his growing insanity with being constantly treated like crap, being trapped inside of a doll and being forever unable to escape. The description reads, "The kids are happy to play games, but some fellows are not as happy as them." Clicking the link, we are taken to the Newgrounds version of the video, and there we see the following clip. It starts off with a board covered with what seems to be evidence of the creepy uncle from episode 2, Mr. Clown, and the cult members being a part of the cult. We also see a drawing of John's daughter hung up on a shelf, which may explain his significant interest in the case, especially when you consider that there are a lot of missing children in the town. He possibly wants to prevent the same thing from happening to his daughter, and as such can relate and empathize with the case. John is also warned by Jack not to drink from a dirty mug, which might make him sick, thus telling us that this clip takes place before the main episode itself. After leaving to go get donuts, a cult member sneaks into the office to burn the evidence. Since the cult member has the immortality necklace, he ends up surviving the fire he created. Another cool detail I noticed is that even though the cult member is immune from the fire engulfing him, he's still able to feel pain, as seen by his panic towards the end. Well, this video is already long enough. I have a job and study obligations, which means I can only release a 20-minute segment every 2 weeks for all of you to enjoy. But if you like the video, though, click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you know about any future videos I create. And once again, I'd like to thank anyone involved, including Senor Pello and the other users who managed to help me solve the puzzle to this episode. Alright, bye.